is our fifth video featuring takeaways from Ratings Prospects Study 23. It's our 11th or 12th year of doing these, maybe a little bit more than that, where we uncover the differences between those who report listening to radio and those who listen to the radio and participate in Nielsen's methodology, either as a panelist or a diary keeper. I am Mike O'Connor. My specialty is marketing, and I'm joined by Lee Jacobs, whose specialty is research. And both of us were program directors for a couple of decades prior to doing this dance.
Yep.
So there are 6 things that you should know. The first 4 videos are available at newvoodoo.com/webinars. And we're up to finding number 2. And this is all about contesting, which I think we agree has always been importantly to a small subset of the audience, but they're the people who essentially tell you whether you get an A, B, C, or F each month.
Yeah, it's one of those tactics that just punches above its weight. It just works better than it oughta, as a program director that I worked for many years ago said.
And of course, we're no longer in a position where we can take whatever small amount of promotion and contesting money that we're given and do everything. So we have to make really logical choices based on how your money is going to help you achieve that objective. And so the next few slides are really designed to help you to do that, to optimize the amount of contesting money you need to set aside. And it is important, but to balance that with the ability to get the word out about the contest. So that's what we're attempt to accomplish here. And before I turn it over to you, the other thing I think is that there's also some other use cases here for radio besides contesting that we'll want to talk about as well. But as you look at this slide, let's start with contesting.
Right. So 4th item from the bottom, participated in a radio station contest or a sweepstakes. This is across our entire sample. So among radio listeners, just 52%, a little over half, said they participated in a radio station contest or sweepstakes in the past year. 38% last month, 22% in the past week. Now we'll focus on the 38% number, and that's big, but is that enough to cause you to want to take the owner's money and spend it in terms of giving away contest prizes? Right. On the next slide, we'll drill down to those who are likely to, if you will, play the ratings game, the ones most likely to say yes to Nielsen, be it part of the panel sample or be it part of the diary sample. And suddenly, you'll find that suddenly participated in a radio station contest or sweepstakes is now 4th from the top. And that's 58% in the last month and 44% in the past week. Those are bigger numbers. And that's, I think, the reason we can say that radio station contesting punches above its weight. And
I think it's important to say this was conducted in early January of 2024. So there was a month kind of idleness. And these numbers are probably, as we're airing this in the middle of the spring sweeps period in 2024, that there's probably a case that these numbers are a little bit low compared to what we would see if we did it now.
Could well be. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that smiled or laughed at something you heard on the radio. That's 67% of the ratings likelies in the past week. That's a good thing. 82% past month. I'd always love to see those numbers higher. Yep. I mean, at the very least, in addition to great songs on music radio, we ought to get, we wrote this, we scripted this so that it wasn't laughed, it was smiled or laughed. Just, yeah, how about that? It's now, because
we're talking about Nielsen methodology, I think it's also important to talk about the finding number 2 from the top, which is the number of ratings likelies listening to radio that have done so on a local radio station smartphone app.
The big number, 69% in the last month, 52% in the past week. And I've said many times, go ahead, buy a new radio. We do have one client who points out exactly where you can go. There's a department store in their burg where you can go, and they have some radios over in a quarter that you can buy.
So when we talk about the app listening, it's not just a vanity. Hey, look, we've got another digital outlet that we can command an audience on. It's much more important than that because of what happened 2 years ago and change, where Nielsen rolled out wearables. They also rolled out the companion app to go along with that.
So having people who are attuned to using an app makes them one step closer to being the kind of people who are likely to empanel with Nielsen in the PPM markets. And frankly, as we're rolling out the e-diary to replace the paper diary, smartphone apps will get even more important in those markets as well.
Nielsen is gamifying the survey compliance, and we as radio need to not only gamify the listening experience, but particularly the contest experience, because both converge at the idea of rewards. The whole idea behind the PPM companion app is that they give basically points, which are good, redeemable for prizes and national contest cash in exchange for their ability to extract the average daily in-tab more cost effectively. And so they're constantly encouraging you to keep that thing running in the background in order so they can suck up the average quarter hours that you're giving to radio, and not have to worry about whether or not you recharge the old-fashioned pager-like meter on the bedroom stand at the end of the day or not. So it's important. So now that we got kind of the contesting lay of the land, why it's important, let's talk about optimizing cash.
How much has it got to be?
Yeah. And what's the question exactly? Yeah.
Imagine a contest on a radio station you listen to regularly. What's the smallest cash prize that would get you to play? The numbers for more than $1,000 are mammoth, always mammoth. At least $1,000, really big numbers. 73% back in January of 23. In January of 24, 81%. And listen, those are big numbers, and there's at least one major station owner around the country that's putting $1,000 prizes up every hour on their national platform using a game that's run across all of those stations. But 67% interested in $500 currently. Okay, so 81% is 14% more than 67%, but 2/3 of the audience interested in my contest, and I could play it maybe twice as often because I'm offering a $500 contest prize. Now, we do know, because we've done the research, that the true contest players will comparison shop. If your head-to-head competitor's offering $1,000 and you're offering $500, your contest is going to lose. But
we've kind of gotten mixed results on those types of offers. I know that, for example, if you ask somebody, would you rather listen to a local radio station contest and have the chance to win $100 every hour, 10 times a day, versus $1,000, I'm making this up, 3 times a day on a national contest? Local always wins, but that's not really the way we need to look at that, because the comparison shopping assumes that people are able to distinguish those fine differences between a locally conducted contest and a nationwide one.
Yeah, I would worry that they're not approaching it like they're buying a mutual fund, that
Right.
they're just hearing, oh, $1,000.
Yeah.
Good, let's do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if your competitor is doing $1,000, you probably have to find the way to match them or to move the game to talk about it in some different way. But in the abstract, $500 is a pretty good contest prize in 2024.
So this next slide that we're about to show is really the one I think that helps you make the optimization decision, because you got to think in terms of the total number of occasions, what your competition is doing, and whether or not you want to get the word out on some of the social media channels that a lot of radio station listeners who will participate in Nielsen are using a lot. And so this slide, I think, is probably the most valuable.
So here we've broken it down by the ratings likely, the RPS yes people, who are from these different format constituencies.
Yep.
I started just by showing the contest players overall, the people who
Right.
are likely to show up within the ratings sample and say they've played a contest recently. 68% said $500, okay, in green. Adding the next $500 to kick the prize up to $1,000 adds 14 points on top of that.
Yep.
Okay, so among alternative P1s, 55% said, yeah, $500 pretty good, but you add 31% more.
Yep.
If you say $1,000. CL plus AD hits, that's classic hits plus adult hits. Think classic hits and the jacks of the world. 83% are happy with $500. And you pick up another 11 points. The classic rock P1s are a little different. The country P1s are tougher to motivate with cash contests. We can say that looking at these data. The hard rock P1s, 81% again, say $500 just fine. Hip hop P1s, 64, but 20% more, another 20%, I should say, if you add another $500 and make it $1,000 prize. Hot AC, CHR, adult R&B, 81% say $500 is pretty great. Another 19% say make it 1,000. I'll love you. And ACP ones, 89% say $500 is just fine, and it's only a couple. Now, these are national numbers. I have to disclaim this is a national sample. It's a lot of people, but it's still a national sample. And
Spread out over the country, yeah.
Right. Your market, your situation, the economics where you live could vary and change these numbers. But as a guidepost, there's a way to look at it.
And this is before we even get into how to package the cash, because I would argue that $500, if you can make it matter from an emotional standpoint, if you tap into that idea that everyone's feeling the pinch of inflation these days, and or taking advantage of some of the emotional uses that people have for radio, for example, to feel better.
Mhm.
I think one of the takeaways is, and this is actually a little bit further down in our summary here, is that packaging cash with positive emotional context, like pay it forward promotions. We see those do really well, and because people get a lot of satisfaction out of doing something for another. And generally, when we're doing those kind of promotions for clients, we're seeing, a neighbor who's struggling with incredible medical bills, and or they're helping a relative that's dealing with a horrible childhood disease. And so those types of things can work just as effectively as appealing to people's sense of greed.
Absolutely agree. And we urge all the time, often when doing music tests for clients, that we'll put in a panel of questions that in a sense is our version of ascertainment, because what are the charities basically that would cause you to be more aligned with the station? What are the needs in the community? And so being able to package your contest cash where, yes, you win some contest cash, but we're going to also take half of it or some portion of it and support that charity or that cause or that need in your community can really bond with listeners. It's a great opportunity.
And I think we'd be remedial if we didn't bring this up. We didn't really emphasize this in this video. You can go back and look at the data if you rewind the video. But the fact is that negativity is going to rule in 2024, and we all know why. And we would tell you, both from the experience of past studies and the experience with actual clients that thought it might be funny to riff on the election, we'd tell you emphatically that we have no data or anecdotal experience that says that's a good idea. In fact, it could spell disaster based on our past experience.
Right. No doubt. There certainly are talent out there who have a foot on the political platform and are able to use that, but they're very few and far between. And unless your talent's one of those special few, we would say steer away, stay away from those rocks, and just keep it positive. Keep listeners knowing that they can come to you for escape and company.
Right. Go ahead and touch that third rail. We dare you. So obviously the major takeaway is you don't need to spend on contest cash. You want to optimize the prize value, the way you can make it emotionally connect with the audience, and do that to optimize that group of only 1 in 5 who participate in the ratings, or the now just over 1 in 20 that actually listen to enough radio to matter, who will participate in your contest and listen to your radio station. So when you do that, you could find that you have budget left over for marketing, and playing the hot zip game to advertise those incentives and set those appointments is probably just as important as the actual cash itself.
No doubt.
So Lee, you're willing to give this presentation to any local market and make it really custom to what they tell you is going on in their community and in their ratings game.
Right. And just give you the opportunity to ask the deep questions. And look, we love this stuff, and I'll always talk about it. So an email to tell me more at newvoodoo.com, or Lee, Leigh, at newvoodoo.com. We'll get you on the schedule. We'd love to show it to you.
And if if you don't have time for that and you want to see all of our data, just keep an eye on newvoodoo.com/webinars, and that's where we'll post new findings. We've got one more takeaway to go, and we'll get that to you, and we'll see you next time.
New Voodoo builds digital products and conducts research and marketing campaigns for clients.
It's easy to get in touch. Drop us a line at tellmemore@newvoodoo.com.